Hey guys, Kirk Short here with another episode of Cruising with Kirk. Today I've got a good friend of mine, and as you'll learn here, a fellow storm chaser.
Not a football player.
Albeit he's on a whole different level than me and my wife. So I just figured we go take a little bit of a cruise around Wichita, not chasing tornadoes, and talk a little bit. So this is Tony Laubach,
How's it going?
and he is with Cake Channel 10, and he's one of our meteorologists. And then you also have your storm chasing.
Yep.
So let me go ahead and back out of here. We'll drive a little bit and learn a little bit more.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So Tony, I'm seeing you here wearing a jersey.
Yes.
You know, I'm used to seeing you on TV of late as one of our awesome meteorologists. Normally you are clean shaven.
Yes.
You're dressed in a suit.
Yep.
And I'm going to assume this is because you're coming to me as a storm chaser and not as a meteorologist.
Exactly. You know, as a storm chaser, the show's up in front of you. It
Okay.
ain't me.
It's not you.
It's not me.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
We sit behind the camera. We're tracking the storms. We're keeping an eye on things. We got a million other things to do, and you know, as a storm chaser, I try not to be the story, so I can let it go a little bit from time to time.
All right, Tony. So, because storm season is here and we're talking tornadoes, it's one thing when you and I can sit there and go chase tornadoes, and we kind of know where they're going and what they're doing, and we can be out of the way of them, at least within safe distances and stuff like that.
Right.
Now you're talking to people about, you know, what should they do? I mean, if they're, for somebody to be safe, if they're hearing from you what's going on, when do they really need to take heed and when don't they? Because, you know, I think sometimes people get, you know, it's like the boy who cried wolf, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like they don't take it seriously. We just talked about how, you know, you're trying to predict where things go, and it's hard to predict everything, especially with storms that produce tornadoes, right? And a lot of times it's funny, we talk about it being here, and yeah, tornadoes do happen, but God, all of a sudden it's a cell that produces, you know, 45 minutes away from here or something like that, and puts something down. But then the people, let's say in Wichita, I was like, well, look, nothing happened. See, that's why I don't, you know, worry about tornadoes. What do you have to say to that? How do you help those people?
You know, if I knew the answer to that, I would be a millionaire person.
Yeah.
You know, it's all in the psychiatry. But again, that's why I'm there.
Right.
So I can tell people this is happening, this is coming, and you need to take action. You know, again, if you rely it based on the technology alone, you're going to have a ton of false alerts because you have to sometimes be safe than sorry.
Right.
You would rather tell people there is a tornado coming and that not happen versus we're going to let this slide because we don't think it's going to happen, and then all of a
Right.
sudden you get a tornado moving through.
Right.
People just need to understand it's a way of life. You know, it's like changing your smoke detector batteries. You do it even though your house hasn't burned down.
Right.
But you do it every 6 months as a just in case. So if if a tornado watch is issued, which is kind of like that little, hey, you know, here's the caution flag.
Right.
Just be aware, you know, that, hey, have a plan, know where you're going to be and where, you know, where's the safe places to go in that. So if you're at work, if you're at home, if you're at school,
Right.
you know, just have it in the back of your mind what you're going to do. And when the sirens go off or a tornado warning is issued, if your app is telling you, hey, you know, there's a warning, it's, you know, there's a tornado or
Right.
a possibility of one, take action. It's 10 minutes of your life to go down to your basement, get into your safe spot. If nothing happens, you get up and you resume normal life.
Right.
It's not a huge inconvenience,
Right.
but you got to take it seriously. You always have to take it seriously.
Right.
You know, especially people who are in mobile homes, outdoors.
Right.
You know, places where adequate shelter is not available. You want to allow yourself enough time to get to an adequate shelter.
Right.
So, you know, just know, all right, you know, and again, we know that there are days where a tornado watch is issued, and there may be a couple of tornadoes, and there are other days where a tornado watch is issued, and this is going to be, hey, it's going to be a significant outbreak
Right.
of multiple tornadoes. again, that's where the weatherman part of my job comes in, because I tell you that ahead of time to say, hey, look, this is a day you want to pay attention to.
Right.
It is a higher risk than an average typical tornado day in Kansas. And you have to act appropriately on that. Because it doesn't matter if a tornado hits you on a low risk day or a high risk day. It's going to do the same thing.
Would you agree that in 2019, because of what's already happening with all the moisture and everything that's coming around, we need to pay attention to weather and the warnings that are going to be coming out this year more than we've had to probably in the last few years, where it's been a lot drier? And
I think I wouldn't put it that way. I think that the potential is there for a more active season than you
Right.
guys have seen in recent years, because, you know, when I moved out here last year, you were in the midst of a drought.
yeah,
There's not a drought here in place,
right,
but that's only part of the story.
correct.
Do the upper, you know, is the atmosphere gonna, you know, is the storm track gonna be
Right.
favor through here? I tell people every spring, if you are in Tornado Alley, live like you're in Tornado Alley. It doesn't matter what the day is, what the pattern is. We saw tornadoes last year. we saw tornadoes last year on days we didn't think we were going to see tornadoes.
Right.
You always have to know, when you live in Tornado Alley, tornadoes are possible in any given thunderstorm on any given day for any reason. Some storms produce, some don't. We don't know why. We're working as scientists trying to figure that out.
Right.
But until we do, people just need to have a respect for the weather and understand that on any given day, the thunderstorm is rolling over you. Severe warn, tornado warn, doesn't matter. It has the potential, and you know, you don't have to crawl in your basement every time a thunderstorm rolls overhead. But be ready, because again, it takes seconds to get to your safe place
Right.
if you've planned ahead, and sometimes it's all you need.
So for a lot of the people that are watching here, we've got springtime that's here, right? The storm season is here, and people are going to have to sit there and watch out for weather. People in Kansas, seems like the first thing they want to do is hide from tornadoes, right? The sirens go off, they hit the basement, they do their thing. But as a storm chaser, that's not what you do.
That is not what I do.
And I want to take and talk about Tony just for a moment here to let you know a little bit of background and why I feel that you're a little bit different than some of the other chasers that are out there, right?
Right.
Because I assume that there's really two types of people that are out really chasing. You've got people that do it from the perspective of bringing quality media content so that stations can report what's happening out there. And those chasers tend to be well educated, and they're doing it for public good, to get out there what's happening. And then you've got a second type of chaser that's out there that is just a thrill seeker. And a lot of them, unfortunately, that call themselves chasers, they're out. They want to see the weather. They want to sort of be in the mix, but they're not what I would deem a storm chaser that's working for the Spotter Network or working with one of the news stations or multiple news stations and things like that.
Right.
Is that a safe assumption?
You know, I think you lump it too broad.
Okay.
I think there's a variety of storm chasers out there. You know, you've got the media
Okay.
based storm chasers.
Awesome.
You've got science based. You've got business based. I guess would be a new one between tour groups and freelance video brokering. And then I think you get the adrenaline junkies. And then I think there are the people who just want to see weather.
Right.
You know, I started out as a passionate, I want to see weather, before selling video or working for TV stations or any of that ever came to the mix for me. It was,
Right.
I want to go out and see weather, and since weather didn't come to you, you have to essentially go to it.
Yeah.
So I think there's such a wide range now of chasers, where it used to be, you were science based or you were passion based. Then
Okay.
then the video turned up, so you've got people who ended up wanting to sell video and started getting into media type things. I've encompassed all of that, You know, I chased for Twistex for many seasons, doing, you know, scientific deployments, you know, studies on tornadoes and supercells. Obviously, I'm a freelance video guy. I'm a meteorologist here for Cape TV. I've briefly done some tour type stuff. You know, I've run the entire gauntlet of chasing, but it all builds on the foundation of me wanting to go out and see weather, and it's not cheap to do.
Right.
So anything you can do to kind of offset some of that really helps out.
I like that. Well, see, I always learn something when I'm with people like you. One of the things that's always impressed me, because I've had an opportunity to be with what I would consider some very good chasers.
Right.
And when you get out in this weather and learn some of the scientific side to why things are happening, what you're seeing, and all that stuff out there, it's impressive to me. And so what I have a question for you, being a meteorologist,
Okay.
because there's a lot of chasers that are not meteorologists, right?
Yeah.
Why do you chase? What is it about weather, if you could sum it up in a few words, that just excites you?
Never knowing what you're going to see. You never know. I mean, any day you can go out and see any number of things over and over again. Every tornado is different. Every supercell is different. Every hailstone is different. And it even goes beyond that. You know, I do blizzards. I do, you know, flooding events, river flooding. Yeah, hurricanes. I don't do hurricanes.
You don't do hurricanes?
No, you'd be cold and wet for 3 days, parked in a parking garage. That looks the same every time.
That's crazy.
But you know, but that's not a chasing point.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I love to travel. I love
Right.
being on the road. You go chase a hurricane, you park yourself in a spot for 3 days, and you sit there.
Okay.
You don't get the luxury of being out on the road, going out and seeing new towns, seeing new things. You know, you put the same supercell in 50 different locations, it's going to look completely different each time, even if it's the exact same storm.
Gotcha.
So you have all that mixing in. I think for me, you know, I always had passion for weather. Grew up taking road trips with the family, and it just all intertwined, you know. And then media was a big thing for me, and I love doing media. I used to produce Blu-rays and DVDs and, you know, that kind of stuff, and it encompassed everything that I ever wanted to do in life in one convenient little package.
I like that. So while you're saying that, because you talk about all this video work that you do, for those of you watching, down at the bottom of the screen here, I've got a link to his YouTube channel. Make sure and you go check him out on his YouTube channel and see some of the work that he does, or check out Cake TV 10 to listen to him when he talks about weather. When are you on TV usually?
I normally do weekend mornings.
Okay.
And then I fill in off and on during the week, and of course when weather gets bad, be it, you know, snowstorms or severe weather, I'm out in the field covering it. So obviously when we have severe weather anywhere in Cake Land, as we like to call it, basically the western 2/3 of Kansas, it's my hope that I will be out there every time covering that weather.
Okay, so I got a question for you. With all the advanced radars, all the stuff that we have today, you know, we hear reports of, you know, all these people that are on the roads watching weather, and people get upset at storm chasers. So my question to you is, what is important about storm chasers?
It's ground truth. You know, the problem with technology is it can only see a limited amount of space. You know, radars, Doppler radars that we have, that you see on your phone or your apps or anything that you look at, has a certain cycle of time that it takes before it updates the next image.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times this stuff can develop between those scans. And a radar beam doesn't shoot straight across the horizon. As it beams out from its source, it's angled upwards. So after a certain point, it's not looking at the ground. And as Tim Samaras, who I chased with all the time, always used to say, the most important things happen at the lowest 20 feet of the ground.
Right.
Because that's where the people are.
Right.
So we provide that ground truth, because without, you know, with radar, you can say, okay, this storm is spinning, it's got rotation, it's tight, but we can't confirm a tornado on radar alone. We can confirm allergies. So we provide that ground truth. We allow the Weather Service to utilize us to coincide with the technology, with the data, because we have it in our vehicles too.
Right.
You know, we've got radar, we've got all that stuff in our cars, but what's the first thing we do when the storm is? We are watching the storm because that's where it's happening.
And you're calling in what you're seeing.
And we're calling in what we're seeing. We're relaying that information back, and we do it with the weather service, or in my case, my TV station,
Right.
so that we can provide those live updates. Because again, it puts more emphasis on the need to act if you've got somebody saying, yes, this is actually happening right now, as opposed to, you know, could be producing or has a potential to. It just changes the dynamic, I think, in how people respond,
Right.
which I think is something we need nowadays, because I think there is so much false alarmness out there. And if you
Right.
have somebody on a storm saying, yes, this is producing, or no, this is not producing, in the moment, that's extremely important. Even beyond that, we offer scientific background because we have, you know, we can go back and use this information to say, yes, there was a tornado between this time and this time, and put it over radar, put it over this technology, and better, develop algorithms or pieces of data that identify, okay, these storms were producing tornadoes at this point. We know they were producing because we had people out there. Here's video, here's, you know, photographic evidence. How does that look with the data, and how can we adapt that data to show, you know, to get a better realization of what's happening?
Right. So would you agree another benefit too is the fact that the average public doesn't really know what it is that they're seeing. And so by having trained people out there knowing what they're seeing, you can separate what somebody reports as a tornado and it's just a scary looking cloud versus, hey, this is a legitimate on the ground tornado. These people need to take cover now, get the warning issued.
Well, and that's a lot of it too. The public is not trained. Like, they can identify storm features, but in terms of how to report that, how to, you know, what is a valid report? You know,
Right.
you simply saying, I see a tornado up the road is much different than me, who is, I see a tornado, I'm on, you know, Kellogg and 235 looking to my southwest,
Right.
can give better locations, better times, do it in a calmer manner, which relays
Right.
that information concisely, quickly, without over dramatizing it or under relaying the point in some cases.
Right.
You know, again, it's beyond just knowing what the weather is. It's knowing how to report, do it safely. Because again, you are an asset. You don't want to become a liability. You don't want to
Right.
become an issue that somebody else has to deal with later on.
So let's shift to meteorologists.
Okay.
I am outside right now, and actually, meteorologist is probably not the best term for you. As a weatherman,
Okay.
you're a weatherman, right?
Yeah, I always call it weathermanning. It's the part of it. It is the part of the job. I am a meteorologist. I've got a degree, but I feel like I play a weatherman on TV. You know?
All right.
You put the suit on, you go up, and it's fun. You know,
you do your thing.
I do my thing.
But as a weatherman, the public sits there and watches you guys on TV, and we hear, hey, it's gonna rain today, and be prepared for it, or the weather's really gonna be really, really bad. And the day comes, we're prepared for it, and guess what? It's sunny. Or you tell us it's gonna be sunny, and guess what? Like right now, it's raining.
But we told you it was going to be raining.
Well, today you did. You got it right today.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of these other situations. Why do weathermen screw up so much?
Let me ask you a question.
Yes?
You doing a March bracket for
Um,
March Madness?
Yes.
All right. Let me know how that turns out for you.
Not well.
Exactly. Predicting the future is hard. No, it's a science.
Yeah.
You know, we use computer mod, and this kind of relates back to the storm chasing thing, where we talk about using our reports to feed into models and radar.
Right.
That's what this is. It's an evolving science. We identify patterns in the atmosphere that give us an idea of the forecast days out. But the atmosphere is a fluid. You're predicting the stream in a river based on where the rocks are going to be, how deep the river is, how fast the river is flowing. So you have to say, okay, I'm looking a mile downstream at a leaf in a river, and you have to predict at another point in time where in that river that leaf is going to be. And you do that based on currents and how everything flows together. So you're making a future prediction based on what you know of the river, what has been researched in the river, put into models to say that this leaf will end up at this point in the river at this time.
So it's a scientific guesstimation.
It is it is not a guesstimation. we are using scientific data, and I know a lot of people say, "God, must be great to be wrong 50% of the time and still get paid." Blah 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 blah. And I always go back and tell people, show me your March brackets. Where's your $1 million that you were going to win? Because you can predict the future. It's like a sportscaster.
So that's why on a bracket I can sit there and say, here, I've got a pretty good idea on this first set of games. This is what's going to happen. But once you get deeper in the bracket, everything sits there and changes.
And it gets further and further out. Think of it like a Plinko board.
Yeah.
You drop it and you can say, okay, as you go down, okay, it's probably going to hit, you get a 50-50 guess here, and it's going to work its way down, and you say it's going to end up in this spot. But if it tinks the wrong way, at any point, it's clear off on the other side.
Gotcha.
We are not wrong. We are not intentionally trying to be wrong. We are giving you the best guess, days out, best forecast that we have based on the models that we're looking at. And beyond that, and this is where I think meteorologist versus simple TV weatherman get kind of confused, because a meteorologist can look and understand, hey, this model acts differently in these situations, and they take that kind of into account to give you a better forecast, because one of the models we use may be too warm in a certain pattern.
Right.
So we say, so somebody on TV may be going, it's going to be 95 degrees. And we know, okay, that model's usually about 5 or 6 degrees too warm in a certain scenario. So we take that temperature down and it's closer to 90.
See, in all this time, I thought you just liked to mess with us.
Oh, no. I like to mess with people. I put fake worms into the, in people's suitcases or something.
So it's a different kind of messing.
No, it is. I joke that I'm a weatherman and doing all this, but I take the job very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And I also laughingly say that I like to think I'm better than most TV meteorologists, because if I'm wrong, I'm sitting in a cornfield doing nothing for 6 hours.
Right.
So I have to be right, because I'm dedicating time, mileage, resources to go to a point that I think is going to be stormy or whatever.
Right.
To go out and be in that situation. So I think weathermen get a bad rap. They really, really do. And a lot of it's just, upset. But again, it's somebody to me, as I was driving around today, said, well, you guys said it was going to rain today. And it was sunny at 2 o'clock. And I said, well, we said it was going to be sunny and we were going to have showers rolling in throughout the day. So it's not always us being wrong. It's people just not listening to what we're trying to say. Because again, we just can't simply say it's going to rain on Tuesday. We have to say, okay, we have rain moving in. It's going to start out sunny. You're probably going to get a good day in it. But you got to pay attention. And if you don't hear us right, or you miss something, it doesn't make us wrong.
I agree 100%. One of the things, getting to know enough of you that do forecasting and all that stuff, I will say I have a whole new appreciation when I finally sat down and figured it out, because I was one of the people in the beginning. I was like, come on guys, why are you so messed up? And then once you actually get into it and you learn these things, and it's great hearing that analogy, because it puts a new perspective that I can, and I'm sure everybody watching can sit there and visualize what you're saying.
Yeah.
And why that's so different.
Well, and it is, and it's fun. The crew that I work with, I'm not a day-to-day forecaster. That's not how I was trained. It's not what I went to school for. I went to school for severe convective thunderstorm type weather. So the day-to-day forecasting, I'm very, very rusty at. The people I work with, Jay, Kat, Frank, Blake, they can sit down and peel through these things, and I'm learning stuff from them.
Yeah.
And they're all meteorologists. They all have got great experience doing this, and I think they're a heck of a lot more accurate than I am on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Because they understand the patterns. They've lived here longer. There's so much that goes into it, just beyond being able to say, hey, it's going to rain on Wednesday. But the fact that, Monday last week, we were like, it's going to be 60 degrees and beautiful for the weekend. And we could tell you 7 days out, go out and enjoy a beautiful weekend without a doubt in our mind. That is how far it has come. We knew we were going to have the rain, the wind, all that in the middle of the week. We knew that a week in advance. And we were telling everybody. We get it right 90% of the time.
You guys do well.
We do very, very well. And and it's a fun science. It really is. It's fascinating because, again, I mean, even a day like this, clouds, rain, something in there you're going to find in the models that you haven't seen before.
So, you're in this jersey,
I'm in the jersey.
and I have seen you in this jersey
For
on several occasions. Can you tell everybody watching what is the importance of this jersey?
So here's the story behind the jersey. So back in 2004, there was a conference in Iowa that I knew the Weather Channel was going to be at. And I thought it would be cool if I stood out at this conference. So I thought I will wear a football jersey of my favorite football player, Art Monk. And that way, if wide shots or whatever, I could say, hey, there I was standing in the crowd, because I'd be the only one wearing a football jersey. Well, we ditched the conference to go storm chasing.
Gotcha.
Myself and some friends. And we drove down to Oklahoma, saw 3 tornadoes. Hey, cool, whatever. So a couple months later, back in May 2004, May 10th, I went out on a local chase in Colorado, normal people close, saw a bunch of great hail, but missed like a million tornadoes out near Lyman, Colorado. So I said, you know what, the jersey brought me luck. I'll wear that on my next chase. May 12th, 2004. 7 tornadoes right here in Kansas. Something to this. So, chased a couple more times. May 24th, took my wife out. Or my now wife. She wasn't my wife at the time. Did not wear the jersey because she thought it was stupid. We busted hard. So, the next chase, May 29th, 2004. I wore the jersey. 15 tornadoes. I've worn it every single chase since. The number, not the jersey. The jersey's kind of been cycled out for t-shirts. But the number 81 is my good luck charm. And I've worn it ever since. And the reason it's this jersey, it's my favorite NFL football team. My idol growing up, Art Monk. That was his number that he wore when he played.
Right.
So that was kind of how it all started. Was I wanted to stand out at a conference that we had ditched to go storm chasing, and we saw tornadoes.
I like it. Another question. If somebody's watching this and they want to get into meteorology or to be a chaser, a legitimate chaser,
Okay.
what do you have to say to them?
I always tell people you don't have to be a meteorologist to chase storms.
Yep.
And I was not a bright kid in school. I probably could have gotten a degree a lot easier if I had gone another route. Take the spotter classes. National Weather Service has a ton of them. We list them on our website, cake.com, all the spotter training to give you an understanding of what to look for in storms. And I think that's always a great starting place.
Right.
Social media, it's so much easier to get connected with people who chase. Not everybody's going to be able to take people out all the time.
Right.
But, when I got started before social media, I found some people at a rest stop on the side of the road in Kansas and asked to tag along with them for the day, and I learned off of them for first couple of years of my serious chasing.
Right.
And it's just all experience. You're not going to read it in a textbook and all of a sudden magically become a storm chaser.
No.
You got to get out and experience it.
I know my first time chasing, rather than just what we had seen outside, was with Lance Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
And he was working with one of the stations, and I had an opportunity to go ride with him, and that's what got me hooked.
Right.
And rather than try to do it on my own, being able to connect with somebody to go out on multiple occasions and stuff like that, it allowed us to do it right. It allowed us also to do it what I consider safely.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing when you talk about chasers and the people on the road. Having respect, right? Having respect for other chasers, having respect for law enforcement, having a respect for the folks that are out there doing the scientific research, and you see and you know who they are when they're out doing that,
Right.
because they're driving the vehicles, and so I know my comment is when you find these opportunities to do that, like you said, tag on to them.
Tag on.
Yeah,
you don't want to on your first time go out and chase across Kansas in your own car on the first time. Again, stay at home, study the weather. I mean, it's going to happen around you.
Yeah.
You understand what you're looking for, and then get outside of town, stay within your county. The areas that you know, because again, the further you get away from home, the less you know, and then your focus is not only on just the weather, but trying to figure out where you are and how start small, start
Yeah.
local. And if you have the opportunity to go with somebody who's trained, go. I'm not going to tell anybody on your first time, jump in your car and go chase.
Yep.
Don't do that. That
Yep.
it's dangerous to you, it's dangerous to other people.
Yes.
And I didn't start that way. You
Yeah.
know, well, I did, but my success rate was horrible. Of course, that was before models and computers and cars and everything else. So I got my start long before then. But now forecast models make it anybody can see a tornado. There's
Yep.
not an art to it anymore, which
Yep.
which is really sad. But you still have to understand that just because you have a radar in your car that says be here doesn't mean that you know how to navigate that situation.
Right.
So that's where going with somebody who knows the ropes and who understands that is going to teach you that, because then you understand the decision-making process. You understand not only what you're seeing in the clouds, but how to interact with that storm. So you know where to be safely, where you need to go. If something happens,
Yeah.
you have escape routes. Because just because you see the tornado doesn't mean it's not going to change direction. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, where am I going to be? And there are a lot of people out there who've chased, 5 or 6 years that don't seem to understand that concept, and they put themselves in harm's way, and they're lucky. One of these days they're not going to be lucky.
I agree.
So
Well, thank you
my pleasure.
again. Talk to you soon.
All right, man.